It's a bit of a mess, so I have to read this. If I jump around, you'll have to forgive me. I'm doing this video to expose a horrendous scandal going on in Ontario, Canada, in our medical system. Seniors are being horrifically abused in every way possible, financial, physical, mental, and emotional. It's just devastating what's happened to me in the last week. I want people to know the truth of what's going on, and the only way it can ever stop is if we band together and we fight our government. Now, this type of seniors abuse is absolutely rampant in Ontario and across Canada, but I have to deal with my own backyard, Canada, and Ontario, and specifically Sudbury, Ontario, the Greater Sudbury District. We need a government children's aid society similar to the Children's Aid Society, with the legal power to rescue seniors instead of sending them spinning into financial ruin, subject to emotional, mental, and physical torture. I'm going to put in an advert in our local paper to send people to send me their stories, their names, dates, addresses, and as much detail as possible. And I have created a new website that I will put them on. And I will expose what's going on here, because our premier, now this has been going on for decades, so it isn't just the current premier, but I have written many times to the current premier of Ontario, as well as to our Prime Minister of Canada and Justin Trudeau, and to members of Parliament, and I have never, ever, ever received a reply. They just don't give a damn. Now, my new website is, I will type it in for you, but but you'll have to send it to me by email, and I'll type that in for you, and then I will retype it and put it on the website. The website is going to be called www.seniorsrightsforall.com. It is self-supporting nonprofit. I cannot give you financial aid, and I am asking for no donations. I choose to operate on the level of AA, self-supporting nonprofit. And if we join band together and expose to the world how the Ontario medical system is abusing our seniors in Sudbury and its surrounding districts, here below are some of the stories I've currently been involved in. First, I'll start with the most current, my mother. All of a sudden, I was sent into an absolute panic and told that if my mother wasn't booked into a retirement residence, she would not be allowed to go into rehabilitation. I had 4 days to pack because I have a lease agreement with the owners, and I'm not going to go into that. That's nobody's business. But the point is I had 4 days, and I'm a handicapped person, 75 years old with Parkinsonism, and I had to pack up a 4-bedroom house. And I gave everything away to the St. Vincent de Paul, and I kept only enough that would go into a residence. And after 4 days, discovered that the whole thing was a lie. Yes, a lie. And this has been going on for decades to thousands of people. And I'm telling you, this is not a joke what's happening. I've sent out an email to everybody I know in Sudbury, and so far there has been no response. I sent it out to media, there's no response. But as far back as 2004 or longer. Now, I had help because I have a lovely friend, I call her my daughter, spiritual daughter, Francine, and she got in contact with the Long-Term Care Action Line, and I reported it there. And they're going to see what they can do. But then I reported it to a number of other places, and it turned out none of them have the legal power to do anything. So honestly, I do feel that we need that we need a government agency, government seniors aid society similar to the Children's Aid Society, with the legal power to rescue seniors instead of sending them off into insane directions such as what happened to us. Now, the house is gone, can't do anything about it. The furniture, the clothes, everything is gone. And neither mother nor I care about that. But my mother's 98 years old, and this is absolutely traumatic, what we had to go through. And I've since found out that we're not the only one. It turns out that there is something called a community care access worker or person at the hospital. And they're telling these kinds of lies so that you will get the heck out of the hospital and don't come back. Yeah, right. Let's just kill you. These retirement homes are up to approximately $3,000 a month. And if you need any kind of care, you're not going to get it there. Now, my mother's 98 with a heart condition. All of this was caused by clindamycin. Some of you already know that. Permanent congestive heart failure, lung damage, kidney damage, and to name just a few. And the fact that the emergency department has gone through hoops to save her life, more recently 2 nights ago, Dr. Primo and a couple of weeks ago, a few weeks ago, about a month ago, Dr. Gill, is besides the point. Because in recovery, she was being abused. And this person was saying that she couldn't even have rehabilitation unless we booked her into a retirement. Now, not everybody has a savings account set aside like I did, and I was prepared to do that. Until I got a phone call from a woman by the name of Francine at the Rehabilitation Center, St. Joseph's Clinic. And my mother's going to be there in rehabilitation for 3 months. So I would have paid $9,000 to store my mother's few possessions that she has left with a bunch of strangers in a home that she can't even live with. Now, excuse me, if you people think that's the way we should be operating, I don't think so. I think the unions need to step in and protect our seniors. And I don't know how to get all of this done by myself, but I'm trying. Now, I have it on record that I couldn't get the person's name who specifically told such a bunch of lies and had us all in such a panic. And as a result, we lost her home and most of my mother's possessions. But that's aside from the fact. I mean, we were the victims of a sadistic, corrupt scam going on at the Sudbury Hospital by a CCA persons for decades. Lie number 1, unless mother was booked into a retirement residence, she would not be allowed into her rehabilitation. That is a total, absolute, dirty, sadistic, rotten lie. Lie number 2, despite being terminal, nearly dying several times in the past few months, back and forth by ambulance, and all of what's wrong with her, and at 98 next Tuesday on February 7th, she was not sick enough to be booked into long-term care. Excuse me. What does she have to be, 100 years old and in a wheelchair? Furthermore, the fact that the hospital person claimed that mother was not sick enough for long-term care frankly horrified the person I spoke to at the Long-Term Care Action Line and several other abuse centers. But the only system that we have right now is you got to hire a lawyer and you got to do a lawsuit and you got to pay more money. Well, excuse me, people, making people bankrupt because they're seniors is not a solution. And really, you politicians and you Premier of Ontario, you should be ashamed of yourself. And so should every member in the government should be ashamed of themselves to support such a system. That is despicable. It's absolutely despicable and atrocious. And how dare they allow people to get away with that? Now, my mom has had several heart attacks, and all of this was caused by clindamycin. Up until August, at 97, she was dancing, driving, full memory, and none of this had to happen. So we got a whole lot of issues. Health Canada doesn't even bother to report. Clindamycin should have been banned in 1974. It did so much damage to me, I've never fully recovered. And you can look that up online because the FDA did take the time to report it for me. And permanent lung damage, and she's going to be on oxygen for the rest of her life. She's got permanent bowel damage. She's got allergies, bone marrow cancer, Paget disease. That's just to name a few of the most recent. And how dare they treat somebody of my mother's age that way? She worked hard all her life. She deserves better. Furthermore, the fact that I got a sympathetic reply from CBC asking me to send the story to go public is almost laughable if it wasn't so tragic. I've been doing that for the past 15 years, and they never published anything. The fact that we're silent, you keep people divided, you make one person having to fight all this instead of joining band together, that's the issue. And the media's silence they should be ashamed of themselves. This is supposed to be a democracy. Well, that's not democratic. Some of the people have wound up absolutely homeless. I also contacted a Jose Meljours Regional Consultant Abuse Center. And guess what? She's like a directory, and she told me this. She said, 100 calls a week, it's ridiculous. And she can't do a thing about it. All she can do is give you Meals on Wheels and another phone number to call. And Advocacy Center for the Elderly. Well, that's legal aid, and that's in Toronto. And legal aid is not going to help anybody because, quite frankly, some of us have houses and we've sold the houses, or you take a reverse mortgage and you wind up going bankrupt and have nothing to leave to your children because you're being denied proper health care. Yeah, you can take your system and stick it where the sun don't shine. I am absolutely enraged by what's going on. And the apathy of everybody just sitting back and doing nothing. Why is it always my job to do this? I'm only one person and I'm handicapped, and for 2 days I've been in paralysis attacks, and I have to do this. Oh, Canada, you are a shameful, shameful country that you allow this to happen. But it's illegal for a for that person at the hospital to lie like that. And the government should investigate. And the Premier should investigate. And what we need is a government children's aid society that will rescue people. Now, I got a few suggestions for you. And I'll do that at the end. But I want you to know some of the things that have been going on that I personally have been involved with. Tony Bruto, 2004, dying with cancer, refused admittance to the hospital to die because the CCA hospital person said he was not sick enough. Consequently, he was dying alone in his apartment, crawling on his hands and knees in brutal agony, unable to walk or stand, to go to the washroom, starving, sobbing. He called me in Wasaga Beach. I happened to be visiting there. I drove all night to get to Sudbury and went straight to the police station. And through the police, I got him admitted to the hospital to die. Yes, and his family are well aware, and they can confirm that this happened. I just talked to Elio the other day, and they tried to pull this on Elio's mother, refusing her admittance over into the long-term care. But fortunately for the mother, the daughter, Elio's sister, worked at one of the long-term care agencies and places, and she fought. But she had to fight. They went back and forth 2 or 3 times before they finally got her in somewhere. You shouldn't have to go through that. There's no way any senior should have to go through that. Families are being lied to at the hospital, telling them they can't return home, but can't get into rehab without being booked into retirement. Okay, I'm not going to say they're getting paid under the table, but it sure sounds like it, doesn't it? These retirement residences are an absolute profiteering, ridiculous, glorified room and board situation. Yeah, you got a doctor and a nurse on call. Big friggin' deal. My mother needs help to get to the washroom, help to get dressed. She's carrying oxygen around. She's never going to be able to live in a place like that. So I sent a scathing letter to the management that they also had no right to accept my mother in her condition. Sadistically, deliberately lied to, saying that you're not sick enough to go into long-term care and forcing thousands and thousands of people like us to do what we did. Panic and agree to their terms. Giving up their homes, selling off what we did, and giving away the rest of their possessions. No, this is absolutely disgusting.